Thank you. You can put your challenge on later. What would your challenge be?
That's a good question. My challenge would be probably education and organizational focused. So how we get the new technology that's out there and available, how do we integrate that into our processes today? That's kind of a big focus.
Is that, when you say education, is that internal or external, or is it just there's too much stuff going on externally?
I think it's a three-way education component, so I think it's educating all parties on how to work best together. So between agency and publishers, what is the right cadence and quality of having conversations together, educating our clients on what they can expect, especially with viewability and ad fraud today, and also educating internally how to get the message out on rolling out new products even internally and how we get adoption within that.
So let's take each of those three areas. So educating publishers, what's the big problem there?
Well, I would say
big exhale.
I know. So I think programmatic is funny. I think my perspective of technology is programmatic is using technology to decision and simplify our lives, right? And I think what's funny about it is that we've actually ended up complicating things a lot for us. And so I think what we need to figure out together is how to take this plethora of options now that we have in the market. I mean, programmatic itself, just from a media standpoint, there's layers upon layers of exchange, remnant, premium, guaranteed, direct. What does it all mean? And you take advertisers who are so used to buying print and TV and trying to get them comfortable and reassured that by moving dollars over to digital, it's not dangerous. It's not money that's not going to be seen by a human. I mean, there's a lot of education to be done in making sure that the investment is going the right way. So.
Do clients trust this stuff?
I think you have varying level of comfortability. So we have clients who have been very digital savvy from, since I've been at Digitas, probably early 2000s, and we've been testing, retargeting, cookie matching, all of this stuff, and really leading the space with that. And then you also have other, advertisers who are kind of slow to test the technology, but are actually more focused on branding and awareness. So it's a conversation that needs to be had at all levels. And I think that the current focus in the industry on verification, fraud is huge, viewability. And I think digital being the most measurable medium there is, and we all know, is both a blessing and a curse. So,
so what's the big change that's coming with viewability?
So I'd say with viewability, we've all read in the press, what is the definition of viewability? And I think as an industry, we've agreed on certain definitions, but it's flexible, if you will. I think that educating and letting people know that what is actually realistic right now is really important for us. So I think that it's easy to go out there and say, I demand 100% viewability starting tomorrow. But I don't necessarily think that's not our approach. It's, you got to be flexible and you have to understand what's the challenges of the industry are. So when I have these conversations with our clients, yes, it is our absolute ambition that every dollar you put towards an ad needs to be viewed.
But I mean, that must be, clients want to hear that and everything like that. But then they don't want to hear, well, we're going to have to pay more for your ads because, and they'll be like, wait, I just want to stop being ripped off like I was before.
Right. Well, I think it's all about setting expectations. So if publishers are actually having issues with yield management against viewability right now, which I understand is a huge issue, right? There's lack of transparency in the data, and let's be honest, websites weren't designed to be measured against viewability. It's a scrolling medium, so if we knew that we were going to be measured up against viewability, I'm sure you would probably release a very different site design, and most of you are probably in the midst of that right now. So I think that managing those expectations and understanding that we are partnering with each of our major publishers to be more transparent with our viewability data so that it's not some, hey, the campaign's over, by the way, I want my money back. It needs to be an ongoing conversation so that you can actually start identifying where you are seeing low viewability rates, and we can work together and figure out why. And then there's also trade-offs. So that placement might have a low viewability rate, but it also has an extremely great performance rate. So what is being seen is doing really well for you. Do you really want to optimize out
Is
of that
that
or not?
suspicious? I mean, I would think if something has a really low viewability rate, it wouldn't really perform well.
Well, it depends on what your performance is. Right, so, I mean, and we're not really talking about click-through rates, we're talking about, engagement or action. So if you're seeing what the desirable action is coming through, and a lot of the times, I mean, I'd say the lowest viewability placements that we have are the really splashy, sexy things that our advertisers want to be around, and educating them that if you want, a homepage ownership, you want sponsorship, there are going to be portions of that that might have low viewability because it's below the fold, but it comes with that full package deal. So.
Oh, so it's not, I mean, I guess as part of the education this isn't like a programmatic problem. This is a broad sort of industry issue.
Yes.
Okay. How about ad fraud?
So ad fraud
Do your clients ask you about that a lot?
Who doesn't, right? I mean, everyone's in the trades. I mean, at Digitas, our view on ad fraud is that, we acknowledge it, and therefore it's a key component of every baseline tech stack that we roll out for every client is that you need to have ad verification on your buy. It's an investment that you need to make. And you have to be proactive and preventative about it. And we have 100% client adoption with ad verification at Digitas, and we've saved our clients over $130 million this year. Money that's been reinvested back towards away from fraudulent impressions and into, safe impressions.
So you think you have it like sort of under control?
Again, so I think that ad fraud is like weeds, like they're always going to pop up in like cracks here and there, and you just got to be vigilant. And that's what technology is. There's always going to be a hacker out there that's going to come up with like an inventive new way to game the system. And I also believe that we also have the right partners in the industry that are right on top of these hackers. So every time something gets rolled out, we figure out how to stop it. So yeah, I think there's always going to be a fringe of ad fraud, but I think that as long as you're vigilant about it.
But within like an acceptable level, if it was like half of like all ad, all the ad money you're spending, then that would be unacceptable. But if it was like 10%.
I mean, we never even get into those ranges at this point. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, we have preventative solutions. So if something is, and this is why I think programmatic has a much larger definition than just looking for the media to buy. It's actually how you defend against your media in some ways. So, we actually look at our media before we purchase it, and if it's deemed fraudulent, then we pass. So it doesn't ever go into our media spend.
Got it. So how much right now of your budgets are going towards like programmatic, however you sort of defend it or define it?
Into programmatic?
Yeah.
That's really hard to answer. I mean, I think it depends by advertiser.
What's the range?
I mean, it could be anywhere from like 20 to 50%. I mean, I just think it's a huge range. I also think that the definition of programmatic actually is interesting in how you phrase your question. So are we talking about buying media on open exchanges, or are you using that definition more broadly? Does that include dynamic creative, programming, decisioning? At Digitas, we look at programmatic with a much larger lens. So
you at Digitas, you don't break it out from sort of direct buys?
Currently, we do. In 2015, all of the buys that go through Digitas are going to be programmatically powered in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so it'll be 100%, but it just depends on how you
But again,
define
it doesn't mean that we're going to be sourcing every single impression from an exchange, right? That's a very limited view of the word programmatic, and I think you hit upon that in your 5 trends. There's a lot of ways to look at that.
Yeah. So what about trading desks? How does that? I mean, obviously with Digitas, and then we're going to hear from Viveki later. Like, how does it? I don't know. I haven't seen Mac here, but what is the role of the trading desk when it comes to what you guys are doing for your clients?
There's a huge role. I think that as an industry, we've had a lot of learnings. And I think that, again, you kind of stole all my thunder in your first opening speech.
We should have coordinated.
But I think transparency is huge.